Hi, welcome to this chat about e-safety in foster care. I'm Harvey Gallagher and I'm the Chief Executive of the Nationwide Association of Fostering Providers. And I'm delighted that Lynn Findlay, who's an e-safety consultant and expert, has agreed to join me to answer a few questions and talk about e-safety in foster care this morning. He's written a guide for NAFP about e-safety in foster care, and we'll also be talking a little bit more about that. Hi Lynn, how are you today?
Hi Harvey, I'm good, thanks. Great to connect online this morning.
Yeah, definitely. Before we kick off, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, about your role, about your interest in e-safety and fostering?
Yeah, I'm a social worker for Foster Care Cooperative. I've been a social worker for just over 20 years now, but the last 11 years have been with FCC. And I think about 4 or 5 years ago, I started developing training for the company, which was mainly started with e-safety. And it's really sort of developed from there, developed from putting just one training course together to doing the whole programme for the agency, and as well from some other external organisations and other agencies. So it's really quite grown organically over the past 4 years.
Fantastic. So you've written this e-safety guide to foster care, which has been published by NAFP. Can you tell us how the idea for that came about?
Yeah, I think the basis of it is about that joined up thinking. And that's quite important to me, that we join up all the different worlds for the children. Their online and offline world is seamless. But I think as adults who haven't grown up with it, we see it as two separate things. So the ethos of the guidelines was about promoting that within fostering practice.
Okay, excellent. The guide is structured in a particular kind of way, and I'm just going to try and flash up a picture of the guide here so people can see what we're talking about. So that's what it looked like, and you can download it from NAFP's website. So you chose to structure the guide in particular ways and use particular examples throughout. Can you just talk us through what your thinking was and how you chose to put it together?
Yeah, so obviously starting from the basis of creating that joined up thinking, the next step was think about the fostering process as a whole. And I didn't want the guide just to focus on one aspect. I wanted it from start to finish. So it starts with the fostering inquiry, prospective foster carers are contacting the agency, going all the way through a child in placement with consideration again for after placement. So it's quite a process guide. And it can be dipped in and out of as well at various stages of the process. It doesn't need to be read from start to finish. It's structured into 5 sections that anyone who uses the guide can easily refer to at any point.
Okay. I think what fostering agencies will want to know especially is, what has this got to do with the national minimum standards in foster care? How should it be informing the Form F type assessments that they undertake of foster carers? So can you talk through that and just explain to agencies how it will be relevant for them in those ways?
Yeah, I think the basis of the guidelines is, like I said, just to create that joined up thinking. So not just in terms of the child's online and offline world, but that thinking for agencies to actually join up and incorporate the online aspect, the digital parenting aspect into the assessments. I've taken some of the existing guidelines that are out there for completing Form F assessments and incorporated them into the guidelines with reference, but also given additional suggestions as how those questions can be adapted to include the online world. For example, in the section on the guidelines on undertaking a Form F assessment, I've quoted some of the Form F research and current advice, but extended that to digital parenting capacity, not as opposed to parenting capacity. So again, creating that joined up online thinking. And again, for the national minimum standards, each section, there's a link in the introduction to the national minimum standards, but each section just considers how it fits with the standards. For example, standard 13.3, that foster carers are prepared in a way which addresses issues they are likely to encounter. That ethos again runs through that preparation, which is in the guidelines.
Yeah, you mentioned digital parenting there, and that's a really interesting expression that we might hear around from place to place. And you mentioned digital parenting capacity as well. Can you just explain to us what you think you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, the basis of the Form F assessment asks assessing social workers the question about the applicant's parenting capacity. That's the current phrase that is used. but yet there's a lot of talk now and a lot of research around people being digital parents. So having an awareness and an understanding of that child's online world just as much as the offline world and how they join up together. So some of it is similar ethos and values in how we approach parenting, but also having that knowledge and that awareness and showing an interest and understanding of what a child and a young person is doing online and being in that space with them. I think it's quite easy to sometimes for people to say, I don't do online, or I don't understand that. But it's about showing an interest and being in that space where the young person is. Just as we just take a young person to a football match or to a sporting club or to a hobby, we'd be in that space with them. We might not understand the rules of the football match that they're playing on a Sunday morning, but we're alongside them. We might not understand how the Xbox game works, but we're showing interest and trying to be alongside them in their online space as well.
Excellent. That's really helpful. Thanks, Lynn. Moving on to talk a bit more about your wider interests. I know you write a regular blog about digital parenting and e-safety. How do you come up with the topics that you're going to write about for your blog?
Yeah, it's quite interesting because the blog has been around since 2016, and obviously it was called Your Child's Digital World blog. At first, the blog started being more pulling together what other people are doing, and then it evolved into actually being a blog about a different topic each month that is relevant. How I come up with them ideas, sometimes I read something online, on social media myself that's out there, sometimes it's something that's in the news. Sometimes it's something that my kids are doing. I've got two teenagers, and it might be something that I hear that they're doing, and then I'll look into research that further. But the basis of it is I look at the topic and then see how that can be applied to fostering practice and children looked after as well with the additional issues. So the ideas come from a range of things.
Fantastic. And then next year, you're very bravely organising a conference about foster care and e-safety. Can you just tell us a bit about the conference? Who's speaking, what's going on, what you're going to cover?
Yeah. Well, the idea from the conference started, I think, earlier this year, January, February time this year, from my manager at FCC, Angela Tobin, from following the success of the blog. And it was her idea. She said, why don't we just have a conference about it? And suddenly it was one of those ideas that sound good. And then, well, actually, just let's why not have a conference? So over the year, this has been work in progress, from securing the venue and choosing the date, which is obviously on Safer Internet Day next year, to looking at what we want the conference to cover. So we have got some great speakers lined up. Obviously, yourself, Harvey, are going to be joining us on the day, and we will talk a little bit about the guidelines as well to the delegates. But we also have Kath Nibbs, who's going to be our keynote speaker. Kath Nibbs is the UK's leading cyber trauma consultant, and she was going to be talking a bit about cyber trauma and self-harm online and how that links to fostering. We've also got Claudia Migueli coming up, who is going to be talking about children's online identity and her research around that. And we're also delighted to be joined by Guardian Saints, who are current foster carers, who again do a lot of work across the UK promoting online safety for fostering. And then more importantly, at the end of the day, we've got a section which is going to be the child's voice. And we've got some young people, some care experienced young people who are going to come and join us and share their thoughts about what it's been like to be in care, to be looked after and growing up digitally. So it's quite a busy day.
Fantastic. And that's the 5th of February in Rotherham. So we all need to look out for that.
Yeah, it's Tuesday the 5th of February 2019 at the Carlton Park Hotel in Rotherham. So it's on Safer Internet Day. Tickets are selling fast. We've got about 70% of tickets sold at the moment, and it's a not-for-profit event. The ethos of the Foster Care Cooperative is that we don't make any profit out of fostering, and that ethos has been applied to the conference. So the ticket price for the conference is only what the hotel are charging us for room hire and refreshments that day. So an absolute bargain price for a full day's conference.
Fantastic. I completely agree. Lynn, many thanks for taking the time to answer these questions this morning. It's been really interesting. Anybody who wants further information about the e-safety guide and also about the conference, maybe could just go to our website, which is www.nafp.co.uk, and you'll find links to lots of other things there as well. Thanks again, Lynn. And
you're welcome. Thank you, Harvey. Bye.